want to thank Daniel and his wife, Emily, for hosting this. And just to give you and I'm Chris Barbour with Skyline Soil and Water, and this is Chanz Hopkins. He works with me, and you know, I just want to basically give you a little overview of the farm. Daniel's got 2 tracts of land that joins, but we started off with a 33-acre piece here, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. 33, and then we got another 40-some acres here, so it's total about 78 acres. And when Daniel bought this, he was running cattle on it, and he wanted some help on developing a rotational grazing system. And so, you know, we came in and on this first track in 2018, we and I have to look at this stuff because I can't remember it all, but we fenced off about 5,315 or 16 feet of stream bank, and so that's both sides of it counted in that. And for the upper field here, or the upper track, we fenced off roughly about 3,300 feet of stream bank. And we created about 11.8 acres of riparian buffer, which, you know, that basically provided him with some assistance with the state in order to get the fences paid for and the water system, and get it spread out where we could utilize it, and he could rotationally graze his cattle. But you know, Daniel, I'm just going to say this: he's one of the few people that I've worked with, and I've been doing this almost 30 years, that has used this infrastructure to really take it above and beyond on the call of management, to, you know, being able to make the farm more productive and being able to rotationally graze the cattle. And basically the name of the game is getting a live calf and putting weight on it, and then, you know, either keep them as replacements to build your herd, or sell them as seed stock or beef, or just take them to the market and sell them. So, you know, and basically he sidelined his welding job, or his welding business, in order to spend more time with his kids and be able to farm the farm and raise the kids in that type of manner. So, you know, and he's to be commended for all the work he's done on his piece on this farm, and, you know, both of the tracts of land. And you know, we put in 6 watering troughs on both tracts of land, and then we put in about 50 quick couplers in the pipeline to facilitate, you know, water distribution throughout the whole farms. And we've got a number of different watering troughs that we want to talk about and look at today, and anything from a portable water system using quick couplers, to a spraying trough that runs by gravity, to water that's furnished by a well that is pumped to a, you know, to a frost-free trough. And you know, we had a lot of pipeline, and we did some stream crossings on the property to facilitate livestock movement from back and forth across the stream, as well as to allow vehicles and machinery, you know, to access both sides of the stream, across the stream. And that's about all I have. You got anything you want to add, Chanz?
No, I think we're ready to
So what we're going to do is we're going to walk out through here to a watering facility and a fresh pasture, and grass is starting to grow. We need some rain, but good Lord will send us that when He sees fit.
Could I add something real quick?
Yes, sir.
I just want to brag on them and say that you couldn't ask for a better group of people to work with. So I couldn't do what I do if it wasn't for them.
So I guess we'll just, everybody wants just to follow along.
Char, how's it going? Good.
Right here, this is our example of a frost free trough, and this is one of the troughs that's on the well water system. So it's pumped to this watering facility. It has a gravel apron, and basically with putting in the well and the watering system, we can pump to different locations to try to set up the troughs. And what Daniel and his family like to do is they use a lot of temporary electric fence where they can actually split the troughs and split the pasture up into strips to more intensely manage the forage that they have growing at the time of year, just depending on what the conditions are like. And then we'll walk right over here. Right up here is one of the stream crossings that we put in to facilitate the movement of animals across one of the branches here, and also the movement of equipment. And you'll see here that crossing was put in, I guess, about 5 years ago, Chris?
It was 2018.
Yeah, so you'll see how well they hold up over a period of time. And then when we continue the tour up here, you'll see one that was just put in this past year, and you can see what one, basically a time period of how they hold up. You got anything else, Chris?
Well, we've got a trough here off the well, and we've got one over here. We're not going to walk to that one, but it's on the other side of the stream over here. So we got two spring branches that are coming down through the farm, joined to to make a bigger creek right down here. But it's sort of laid out really well on the stream fencing to create the paddocks, because we didn't have to put in a lot of extra cross fence. And then we got on this particular tract of land, we've got another spring development that we developed. It was an old spring that had been used for an old homestead, and we came back and did some maintenance on it and recalled it, and basically piped it by gravity to another watering trough on that end. And we won't see that today, but we'll see a very good example of it when we get towards the end of the tour. I'm gonna let Daniel just speak to a minute on his pasture management, because he can explain it better than I can, if he wants to right now.
Yeah, we just tighten the cattle up as much as we can, depending on what stage the grass is at. Just trying to get as good of manure and urine distribution as we can, and then give it as long of a recovery period as we can. And it really makes a difference in the soil and the grass and the cattle health.
Daniel, what's your total paddock wise with regards to the head you run?
it's always changing because we use poly wire and step-in posts, so we really don't do the exact same thing, you know, every rotation. But we get anywhere from like 30 days recovery in the spring and fall to probably in 50-ish days. Like in the summer, we'll tighten them up and make our rotation be a little bit longer.
That's what I was getting at. Was, are you looking at basically seven rotations, 9 rotations? What you're trying to accomplish with June, July, and August coming?
I really don't look at it that way, I don't guess. We get at least 6 rotations pretty much every year. Anything after that, I guess I kind of look at as that's extra almost.
You're watching the production.
Yeah.
Do you frost seed any clovers on the fields?
I haven't on this farm. When we cleared the land up here, you know, we used a mix that had some clover in it. And that definitely helps the soil and the cattle.
So about the time we got this project done, Daniel had purchased this other tract of land, and it was covered in heavy timber, mostly pines, and he had it logged.
That was the only way I could afford to buy that half.
Yeah. But so, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, because I know we have a lot of, I deal with a lot of landowners that have gotten cut over land or recently timbered land, and they want to convert it back to, you know, pasture. And it can be very expensive. But I think what you'll hear Daniel tell you, it's maybe not as expensive to rejuvenate the field if you just go proper with management. I guess cleaning it up is another different ball game altogether. But
yeah, patience, and let animals help you do the work and feed on it, and you'll be amazed what happens.
When was the last time you had cattle here?
We brought them through here at some point in the winter. I'd have to look back to see when. It's probably been at least a couple months, I would say. And this and back there, they're probably some of our poorer places. I was telling somebody earlier, the best grass is over there that we're probably not even going to go to. But it takes time.
So how deep is your gravel around this to keep the cows from sinking?
Yeah, there's geotextile fabric underneath them. And then, what is it, Chris?
6
About 8?
inches?
Okay.
6 inches thick, normally.
And do you have to come through it and clean out the muck around it?
No, certain ones hold up better. Like this one's in a good spot where the gravel doesn't try to like wash away. You'll see a couple of them, or one up here that we wintered the cows at. They've kind of packed it down because it's a new one. And what we'll do is just go back this year and add a little bit to it. But I've never had to add rock to this one or the one over there that we originally did.
So we try to place them, you know, when we come out and lay out the system, we try to get, you know, what's going to be convenient and work for the producer, because he's got to maintain the ownership of it. But we try to get it into an area that's going to be stable and not create a muddy mess, and try to keep it out of a swale or a stormwater channel that would normally run, you know, when heavy rains. And then we also try to get it on a sort of a flat level area if we can. And you know, we drilled the well. The well is back up above where the parking area is. So the well is serving both of the farms. And I don't know how deep was that well? 300 or 400 feet?
Yeah, 325 feet, I think.
Okay. And sometimes, you know, that's a challenge, because, you know, it seems like anymore the wells are going deeper and deeper. And I guess it's because of all the population that's getting groundwater out of the earth. And in certain areas, where we work 4 counties, we get to see certain areas that it's very hard to get water in, as far as a well. And some areas it's very easy. So, you know, sometimes that's about the only shot in the dark when we're trying to work a farm plan up for a farmer is to, to figure out that well. So we usually will rely on what he tells us and what they are in the area as far as an estimation purposes for drilling the well. But
How many gallons per minute do you need for the well?
it just depends on your supply and demand. And when you get into talking about the planning, that's what we do with the landowner, and each plan is different. But we develop a water budget. So Barry Skiles back here, he always said, first thing you do is develop a water budget. You got to figure out how many cows, the type of cows, the other types of livestock that you're going to have watering. Like I've done water budgets on dairies before that were 12 and 13,000 gallons a day. That's a lot of water. So, when you're thinking about the different animals, goats and sheep don't drink a lot of water, probably a gallon to 2 gallons a day, depending on whether they're lactating or not. And then cows are the same way. They're going to use, a mature mama cow is going to use about 20 gallons a day. And if she's lactating, she might go upwards of 25. But a lot of it has to do with their diet. If they're out here on lush green grass, you might get by with 15, 20 gallons a day on a lactating animal, unless she's a very high producing milk genetics. And if you're looking at dairy cows, you're going to figure if they're on the production line, they're going to probably consume anywhere between 30 and 35 gallons a day. So, we factor all of that in as far as the usage and demand that we're going to have to supply to the animals.
And what about a farm pond? Do you discourage that just because it's surface water?
Well, we don't do a lot of farm ponds anymore because the time you build a pond, you can get a well, and if you're looking at surface water runoff, ponds have big problems with health issues as far as hoof maintenance, like foot rot, different other kinds of bacteria that can get in ponds, and parasites like leptovibrio that'll cause mama cows to abort.
We do have a couple ponds, but we don't let the cattle in them. We have them plumbed where you can hook a quick coupler to a trough, and that's how they get water out of the ponds. Or we have some rock skirts too, that they just walk up and there's a wire where they can't get into the water, but it's enough where they can stick their head down to drink.
Basically making a limited access point, kind of like the same way a stream crossing can serve. Like say if the power was to go out and you needed to get water to the animals, you can use the stream crossings as an access point to limit their access to the streams. But that way the animals can still get water.
With regards to your planning and stuff and the locations of your troughs in place, what's your travel distances that you usually space?
Still trying to keep the travel distance at below 800 feet. So that, from studies that have been conducted, that's like recommended. If you can limit the travel to less than 800 feet between watering points, that way you're not losing poundage.
And they'll utilize the forage.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of time, like if you go to say some of our Giles County fields, Floyd County the same way, especially on the steep hillsides. If the water's all down in the bottom, the cattle won't utilize it, unless it's a certain type. If it's lush and all of that, they may go up there and eat, but they might not utilize it to the potential of the field and get the big bang for the buck out of the forage base.
You're saying utilize the grass.
And that's in Southwest Virginia. That's pretty much what we are, is grass farmers. I mean, that's what we're trying to produce animals off of grass. And so anytime you can improve your management and improve the land's productivity then you're going to be better off in the long run of producing more money on the farm.
All right, I think we're ready to. We'll walk over here and take a look at the.
What's
stream
this
crossing.
cover right here?
So that's the shut off for the trough.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a shut off and drains on all of our troughs. So like if you want to shut them down in the wintertime, you can shut them off and then open another valve, and then the water that'll come up in this float, there's a float valve right below here that sort of works like a commode float valve. You know, it'll spin fresh water in when they drain. So, you know, when they come in here and drink that water down, the float will fall down and the valve opens up and the water trough fills back up. But like in the wintertime, say if you're going to winter your cows, say over here on this pasture, because that's where you want to concentrate your feeding of your hay, then you know he might want to come in here and shut this thing off and drain it,
Okay.
so it won't freeze. And anytime you might have to work on it, it's always good to have a shut off on the main line, because you know anybody that's worked with water, you don't have to go pull the plier plug to shut the pump down.
How much maintenance is usually required on an outfit like this?
Hardly any. Like,
I'll let him speak to that.
you can drain them in the winter, but we don't, and they're fine if you don't. And I mean, for some reason you might get a little bit of debris like in the valve or something, it might make it hang up, but other than that.
But the one thing I'll mention to you on that, and if you don't have, you know, the manufacturer of all these troughs recommend 10 to 15 animals, mature animals, drinking from them to keep that 50-degree well water coming in here. So this thing is self-insulated, and when the 50-degree water comes in, it'll stay 50 degrees for a day or so, and not, you know, but if you get down to 0 and it stays that way for 3 or 4 days, the animals are crucial to keeping this thing frost free. But it's so, like, I've had them on my farm probably 18, 19 years, and I never had enough. Time I got rid of my calves in the fall, I didn't have enough land to carry more than about 8 cows. But it would, the trough will withstand 0-degree weather, you know, 10 to 0 for about 3 days. And then the float valve in the thing would freeze up. And it was because my animals weren't consuming enough water to keep it circulating. And so normally what I'd do is shut it off and send them to the creek or send them, you know, to the spring branch on the backside. Because I was very fortunate to have a spring branch that was right near the head of the spring, and it never would freeze. You know, 30 years I've never seen it freeze. So, but that's.
I'll tell you something else you can do. You watch the weather forecast, and if you see it's going to be 0 for 3 or 4 days, we go around a lot of times about dark and knock the plug out and let it drain down and put the plug back in.
Yes, sir. I've done that too.
That keeps them from freezing.
And I've seen farmers also, I've seen them put in just temporary posts and actually put up plywood around them just to create a windbreak to keep them from freezing too. Especially not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before past, when we had that bitter cold and the wind was blowing, you know, 40, 50 miles an hour and stuff. You know, a lot of people had some issues then, and those are the type of events that they're not all that common, but you might have some issues, especially if you don't have enough animals drinking to keep that water circulating.
But I've been cussed more than once because they said that those troughs are said to be frost free, but if you don't follow the manufacturer's recommendation, because they may have, you know, 3 or 4 pastures, and they end up opening the gates, and in the wintertime, you let the animals pick whatever they can get, but the animals are strung out all over everywhere and not making them use one specific waterer. And so sometimes sometimes it does pay to, think about the management of what you're doing. Just because they say it's frost free, it's not going to be like a hydrant, like a frost-free hydrant.
Hey Chris, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Like this right here, that water is set up for cattle, correct?
Yep.
Have you ever set up a system where you got multi-species like cattle and sheep or cattle and goats?
Yep.
I mean, what do you do on something like that?
A lot of times, it depends. But a lot of times we'll just do an open station waterer and usually have underground electric wire to run the heater. Especially if it's sheep or goats. But you can take these balls out of them. The height may be a challenge for some of that smaller classes of animals. So, it just depends on, what kind of animals you're running. And, but how do the goats use that one up there, Daniel?
I don't let them use it. I'm
Okay.
afraid the dog would chew on that one. So we have a quick coupler that we just plug in a portable trough right beside that one.
How many deer do you water or not?
Honestly, I haven't seen deer around these. I see them around the spring boxes, but never these.
All in due time.
All right, let's walk over here and take a look at our first stream crossing here. Okay, so this is one of our stream crossings, and so this is another engineered design. Basically, we take a look at the size of the watershed, and that determines a lot of factors in the design of the stream crossing. For instance, the stone size for the base stone. So it looks like it's just gravel here, but what we've actually done here on this crossing is we've taken out a foot of cut, a foot of material, and put down geotextile fabric to stabilize, and then we put down a layer of base stone based off of the size stone, the calculations off the watershed that we need to. So like for this particular crossing, we used #1 VDOT stone, which is usually stones, about the size of a softball, size of your fist, that type of thing. And then it's capped off with 357 or crush and run to create, a nice top layer to facilitate the animals coming down if they need to drink or when they go to cross, and for taking equipment across. So it's not just simply coming in here and plowing stuff out and throwing down some gravel. So these are engineered designs that are made to last and to withstand the velocity of the stream. And so Chris designed this stream crossing, and it was probably designed 8 or 9 years ago if it was put in 18. So, yeah. So this is a really good example of how they hold up.
But the reason the water's running across and you didn't put a pipe down in the ground to let the water go through is because this is your emergency water.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also we don't want to restrict passage from aquatic wildlife either. So a lot of times when you're using culverts, putting water in a pipe and stuff like that, it actually eliminates the possibility of aquatic wildlife moving up and down the stream and stuff. So we don't want to do anything.
And then when you're sizing a culvert, you got to figure on the 10-year storm, which is about 3.6 inches of rain in Floyd County. Each area is different. Floyd County has 4 rainfall zones, and this is zone number 4, so this is the lowest zone. But if you go back up towards Meadows of Dan, the 10-year storm's going to be a little over 4 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. And what we're seeing, I try to stay away from culverts because of the cost of them, and because of the 10-year storm can have to be designed to be bigger, and also they clog up a lot of times, especially when you have upland flow coming off of woods and other areas. They can cause more problems than they actually help. But we want to have a place that the animals can get water if something happens and the power's out for 3 or 4 days and they can't get to the water troughs. And we can just open that up and let them come here. And we armor this to prevent erosion. from ingress and egress from animals and machinery.
All right, well, I think that's all we really need to look at here. Next, we're going to start to make away. I think we got a gap in the fence right back here, and we're going to take a look up here at the upland portion of the farm and the land that Daniel reclaimed that was timber that he's currently converted back into pasture.
How's it going?
It's going.
How,
Yeah.
nice work, Charlie. Now we're walking up to the water trough up in the clear cut. Gonna check that out. And then we'll keep on our pasture walk.
Yeah, I heard him. He seems excited.
Here's that water trough.
Thanks, Clyde.
Who's in his clear cut?
It's because they are hot. If you don't know, you can touch and find out. But this was a cut over land that Daniel has reclaimed, and this was the second phase of the project. It was done in 22.
Yeah.
Okay. It was 22 year on the program year. But I'm gonna turn it over to Daniel, and I'm gonna let him explain to you what we did here as far as what he did to get it back into grass. Because if y'all notice the grass coming up through here, if you notice the orchard grass, the clover, and all the other grasses coming up, it's to be commended of getting the land back into shape to grow grass. Go ahead.
I basically just sold the timber off of it, and when you do that, you're left with a big mess. So we clear all the brush, and we left most of the stumps just to kind of help hold the ground together, because once you start digging and pushing stumps up, it just opens up a door for erosion. So I'm glad that I did that. And one reason I did that was the cheapest way to do it, but looking back, I'm glad that it happened that way, because I think it helped me hold on to the soil that way. But then the first couple years, we mostly ran the goats through here because it was nothing for a cow to eat. And I broadcast seeded just a pasture mix with like orchard grass, timothy, fescue, and red clover. In the first year, it got burnt up and nothing came up. And that winter, I fed on it really heavy. And the next spring, it kind of started to come alive, and it's just got better since then. We'll just cross fence it and let the cattle hammer an area, and then give it as much rest as we can before we bring them back around. And we'll bring the goats in and out too to kind of help control brush. But I've never fertilized or anything in here. It's all just been manure and urine. And that's the magic. No, I've never done any soil samples here.
We're gonna talk.
But if you think about it, this is primarily pines.
Yeah.
So pines sort of acidify the land. So with not having any lime or fertilizer, you can see what's going on here.
Cow urine has a pH of 7. So if you can put the cow pee where you want it, it'll grow grass.
And one thing I learned at a forage and grassland council meeting, it was because I'm all into this farming too, because I've done it for years, but I didn't realize that the cow urine has as much potash in it as it does. So I don't think a lot of farmers realize that. So when you're feeding with the hay ring and all of it's getting deposited in one spot, you know, it's nutrient overload. But when you've got them out here spread out and they're urinating, defecating, you use that to benefit your land.
This land looked like that up there 3 or 4 weeks ago.
And you've got the goats up here. Clyde, he's pretty. He don't like that's him up there barking at us. But he stays with you.
He does.
All the time.
Yeah. So we No, because we just noticed that the other day. It's all coming up on the pipeline ditch. I think it was a different pasture mix that I used for it.
And so this area over here that's fenced out, this is actually like the headwater parts of this stream. When we looked at the stream crossing down here, what we did is we come up here and captured the headwaters where he has a spring that comes out here that feeds a smaller pond over here. Basically goes down the holler and feeds into this other branch. It's right over here. That's the 2 streams that come together that run through the middle of the property. And so those were the areas that we got fenced out to get the livestock out of there and to create some nice wildlife corridors. And Daniel and his family, they appreciate the wildlife, and they've done different things on the farm as well there too. You can tell them about some of your nesting boxes.
Yeah, you can see one on a tree behind you. Tree swallow houses, they're all around here, and they help control the flies on the cattle, and they're just fun to watch too.
Did you, yeah. We wanted to showcase the different types of watering systems. So this is going to be a portable watering trough. Daniel we got a quick coupler here in the main pipeline. And you know, we've got them set up strategically when we put this thing, you know, put the system in to where he don't have to have a permanent water for every station that he's going to water the animals.
And it works just like an air hose. There's just a female connector in the ground, and you just plug it right in and you have water.
So what kind of valve you got? A Job valve?
Yeah, it's called a Job Mega Flow valve. And we actually, you'll notice a lot of above ground pipeline too with the same kind of quick couplers here. That way we can put water pretty much wherever we want it. Because water is a manure magnet.
This allows Daniel to more intensely manage the pasture that he does have. Like the strips that he was describing down there, giving the cattle just a strip, letting them hammer it down, and then moving them on to the next one. This is what facilitates that movement of the animals by being able to put the water in strategic places.
You know, I have so many producers. You know, when we come in here, if we're working with you, try to make a rotational grazing system, we just try to set up a basic rotational grazing system. It might be 3 or 4 paddocks, depending on the size of the farm. But if you want to go to the next level, then you know you can use polywire and have a, you know, if you just put one strand of hot with barbed wire or whatever kind of fence you're using, or woven wire or high tensile electric, then you can you can just hook your polywire into that and make your breaks where you want to make them. And you know, I think that's key to setting up a system. But you know, when we're looking at using taxpayer dollars to help fund these systems, we try not to get over and absorb it, because you know, George Hudson, he's here today. and I've worked with him for a long time, and he had a, you know, they still doing a rotational grazing dairy. They're not milking quite as many animals, but you know, he told me years ago, he said, the only fence I got on my farm is the perimeter fence. And then I use the poly wire to give my cows breaks of grass. And he was giving his cows on the dairy 12-hour breaks. So, you know, he's, you know, trying to, you know, make a living, raise 2 kids, and the same way with Daniel. You know, they try to be profitable and make the land more productive. So, you know, sometimes you got to do stuff on your own and try to get it done.
And you got to think outside the box sometimes too. A lot of times, you know, we get stuck in the way. Well, this is the way Granddad did it. This is the way Dad did it, and that's the only way you know to do it. But getting out here and getting exposure to what maybe what some other things and other ideas that people are using, maybe that can get your wheels turning, and you can maybe make some strategic differences or do some different planning on your farm to help make some changes that benefit you. So, and we're here to facilitate that. I guess next we're going to go right down here.
But if any of y'all want to come by and look at the temporary water, you just gonna let it
It'll shut off.
to see what we're, you know, what he's using.
You gotta have the trough level. Is that what you're saying?
I'm asking.
Yes. Or you just put it.
Just shorten the rope, or
You can do that, or just put the valve at the low end of the hill. That way, the water is more on this side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it shuts off. But we use sticks and everything
To level it up.
and do you feel like you have to reduce pressure? Are you reducing your pressure?
No, these valves are great. Like, they'll hold back. I've never had a problem with them like seeping or anything.
Does your hose bust when it's all?
I've never. Flexzilla hoses are great, and honestly, I've never had a Flexzilla hose bust.
Okay.
You do, like, if I wouldn't water the cattle right here, I would have a poly wire that ran across this. We run a poly wire like right at the top of the valve. That way they don't get around here and walk on this. But yeah, I mean,
Lid off here, see
they're great.
and it's plugged in. And you just want to have it down below the frost line, so it's 30 inches down. That way to keep it frost free, and that way if you're
And we got quite a bit of pressure down on that bottom.
it just allows you
It's
to
up there.
maintain. Now, Cedric here, he has quick couplers on his farm too. How's your management been going with him? Have you had any issues with him?
I have one break the other day.
Yep.
A female quick
female
couple. Yeah,
break.
I have had like
think-
1 or 2 breaks.
Yeah, and that's a really big pain because you have to turn the whole
Yeah.
thing off.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with float valves, and because we're moving all the time, and like things aren't right, things aren't flat, things aren't just situation. You know, like we were just talking about how he pulls a poly wire and keeps the cows out, but we're moving the water like twice a week, and it can get a little cumbersome in terms of the cattle because it drinks so much. The sheep are so much easier. Just pull a little bit there and they drink whatever. But we also are rotating all kinds of other species, and we got the hogs and the chickens and the turkeys and the layers and everything, and that actually works really well with it. It's only the cattle that we're struggling to sometimes meet the demand for that lay of the land.
You'd be happy with this setup, I would think.
Yeah.
And just keep some
I've been
pieces
thinking
of.
about getting some Joe.
Yeah, I can't say anything bad about them. And keep just some. If you're not level, just keep some 2x4s or something where you can just like pick up the corner that's on the low end or something. Like literally where the goats are at, we have like just tons of sticks packed underneath it to keep it level.
This is a silly question, but can you drain it?
Yeah, the front of it.
Oh, you have it on both sides. Did you add that?
No, these bigger ones come with the drain.
Come with the other side as well.
I had to drill a hole here.
You know, with our sled, when
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I drilled a hole.
plus these don't hold the sled. The new make, I'm using all the old ones.
These though, they're once you drain them, they're light. We just pick them up and
A lot
walk
of
them or
times
throw them
we'll
on
put
the side by
like
side or
these
something.
waters. We'll put them like, say you got
Throw it on.
maybe 4 paddocks coming
Well,
together.
or just not have a
We'll
sled.
take and build a corral around
Just
it.
throw it on the tractor.
So you said you drilled that hole.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't come with the whole back here. I think I had to drill that one. It comes with that drain plug in it.
Rotational point. They
Just
can
did
come
on,
in and
yeah, that
water,
makes sense.
and
You
then
did on the other
take
side, and then
that
you can
field,
drain.
Yes.
open up this gate over here. They run in there, that fresh grass, and then you shut this gate back over here and let this
Yeah,
grass.
we should.
So it's how much.
And if you're not level, like you said, it's just tied right there, so you can adjust it.
There's a lot of different ways
2 or 3 minutes.
we can do things and stuff. So it's just really what your ability to do is.
Him down there, the pressure is pretty serious, and I've never had an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, it pops off all over.
Flexzilla hose. When we had cheap hoses, they would swell up in the summertime, but we haven't had any problem with Flexzilla hoses. But we don't let the cattle walk on them either.
How many gallons per minute were you getting out of your well originally start with?
What was it? They drilled to like 300 feet, and I was only getting 2 gallons a minute. And they drilled another 25 feet, I think, and it jumped up to like 25 gallons.
Yeah,
or something.
it was pretty good well, yeah. I would say the average, typically the wells that we see, probably 5 to 8 gallons a minute is usually probably about the average. But you got to think about that. There's 1,440 minutes in a day.
Right.
So that still can produce a lot of water. All right. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to ask. If not, we're going to venture right down here to where these gates are, and we're going to travel down the hill and take a look at the stream crossing we just put in this past year, and then also take a look at the spring trough that's on the farm that's gravity fed by capturing the water in the spring down here in the holler.
Whoa, there's all kinds of pollen coming off of this. Yeah.
Hey, I seen the video.
Are you really?
picnic area, those types of things. So the land can still be utilized, it's just set out of production. Hey Chris, you want to talk to, we want to walk right down here to the spring box and talk. It's all right. It's 5:22.
If somebody wants to walk up here, we've got another watering trough. I think, excuse me, I think Daniel wants to show you where that field over there where the cattle are. They're in there right now grazing, and if you want to walk up there, you can. If not, you can stand down here. It doesn't matter to me.
Now we're walking up to the cattle.
Yeah, I think there's 14 of them, or 15 here, maybe. Yeah, about a month old, probably the oldest one. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, for any of y'all, I always hear farmers say, well, I'm not going to put up the poly wire, and I don't want to manage poly wire, and it's too much work. Well, I'm going to tell you, these two young men right here is Daniel's right-hand man. Bentley and Charlie, they put up the poly wire. And Daniel's got his side-by-side or his hooked up to handle the reels and the posts. And but as we look up here, you can see where Daniel has moved them and they grazed this. So they're going here today. He's using the water and strategically fencing around the water to facilitate multiple paddocks within one waterer. Anything you want to add, Daniel?
I overgrazed that, but it's because I was trying to buy time for this thing. That normally would have been a 1-day paddock, and I got 2 days out of it.
But you know, it's springtime. If we get some rain, that's going to grow back real quick. It's hard to stay ahead of the spring flush. And just like everybody knows, if they mow their yard, how hard it is to keep your yard mowing. You might mow it twice in 1 week. So it's a lot like raising grass for animals.
Yeah, probably close to 50, counting like 15 calves, you know, right now. That'll be a day where they're at right now. Yeah, that'll be a day. Over here will be a day, and we'll probably get 2 days out of this one.
Take a look at the spring trough that we have on this side of the farm.
I got 2 neighbors down there that are stuck on the ground in the house. You can see the ribs and everything else.
No, the bulls, if you want to see the bulls, they're down there next to the handle facility. You'll have to check them out.
But it won't freeze, right?
Yeah.
So what you're looking at right here, this is a gravity system. This is a spring trough. So the water has been captured up toward the head of the spring. And then, this is a pretty bold spring, and so the water is collected in a collection bowl. And then you have water that overflows out of the collection bowl back into the stream to keep water in. There's a pipe down here by gravity. Free flows all year round. It comes into the trough, and then there's an overflow pipe where the water goes into the overflow and it's ditched back over to the stream itself. And so water just constantly circulates through the trough by gravity all year round, and that's what keeps this trough from freezing up, keeps it frost free. So if you're in an area, like if you have springs and stuff like that, but maybe you don't have a power source, you're really out there and it's very costly to do so, this could be an option to help get water and to help get the cattle out of the stream itself.
In modern days, what kind of structure would you have for the spring box like this?
So a lot of times we use tire waters now, heavy equipment tires. They actually use them, and instead, but you can still use the concrete for the spring troughs.
Well, I think you're asking, and so this was done. I don't know exactly what year it was, but
Quite a while ago.
for anybody that's been around a long time, you knew Tap Whittle, Danny Turman, which Tap trained me and Danny did too. They put this in, and I may have helped with it. I don't remember whether I did or not, but we put a lot of spring troughs in Floyd County, and this was before stream fencing was even an issue. You know, and then the environmentalists, they wanted to know where their tax dollars were going, and that's when stream fencing came into play of getting the cattle out of those states' waters. But a lot of the producers in Floyd County and in all 4 counties, they realize the benefit of having alternative water. Good clean water will help your animals perform better, and will increase your weight gains on your calves. And it's just the proof's in the pudding when you go to sell, and your wean weights are higher than they've ever been when they were using the creeks and the streams. But this basically, to get back to your question, this was actually tiled out. The spring was dug out, 4-inch black pipe with holes in it were placed on. Put the holes on the bottom, and then they covered it with a gravel, probably 8 to 10 inches of gravel, and then put a cut-off wall in with a solid PVC pipe, like a 4-inch pipe, connected onto the 4-inch tile that runs into a collection bowl. The collection bowl is to be able to access and make sure the spring is still running, and it's also allowed for sediment dropout, so it doesn't clog your pipeline. We still do some spring deposits that have been, maybe need to be maintained in that regards. Some of the governmental agencies have gone away from the spring troughs, but in some areas in our counties where you can't get a decent well, or the well is going to cost an exorbitant amount of money. And Floyd County has its areas too. You can ask John Vest, he'll tell you how much money he's got in his house well. And, how many wells? 4 wells. And then right up the road there's another man, and I won't call his name, but he drilled 4, and then give it a gallon and a half a minute. But sometimes it's better to use what the good Lord has given you instead of trying to drill another well. But we got to make sure, we rely on the landowner to tell us if the spring is reliable, because we don't want to invest money into a spring that's going to dry up in the summertime. But these are pretty much maintenance free, other than maybe algae or grass getting in it.
We put goldfish in these. If you have one that grows algae and it's constantly clogging the drain, put goldfish in them. We've done that to 2 or 3 of them, and they clean them right up.
And another thing that's good for the algae, it's a up and coming thing. There's a plant here in Floyd, Southwest Virginia Biochar, and I'm not plugging them for anything about their business, but the biochar, they will, they sell it in socks if it's what you want, but it's actually a land amendment, but it actually draws the nutrients away and takes the nutrients out of the water, so the algae really doesn't have anything to feed on. So the biochar will actually help clean up water, and it's got multiple uses, and the scientific community is just now realizing the benefits of the biochar.
What would you say would be the top reasons why you would, what are the benefits of keeping your cattle out of the streams?
For one, from our standpoint, it's water quality. It limits the amount of nutrients that are deposited in the sedimentation from the animals sloughing off the banks and denuding the banks and stuff like that. So it gets the livestock and the animals out of the water. It creates this buffer zone as like a filtration zone for runoff, and as the water sheds downhill, to eliminate that from going into the creeks. It's just doing our part to help keep the water clean. Then also the other benefits is just like Chris has described numerous times today, is just health, herd health, improving the quality of water for the livestock, eliminating a lot of those issues that you might get if they're drinking out of ponds and those types of things.
And you want to hang on to your manure too. I know I keep talking about manure, but when they eat up here and go down to the creek, that's where they're putting all the nutrients. And you want to keep it as high as you can.
Or they lay under that shade tree half a day and 3/4 of the day and graze at night. All of that manure is being deposited right there underneath that tree, and right there near the creek, that can cause nutrifications of the waters. But when we talk about filtration, we're referring to a source of pollution called non-point source pollution. And for those that don't maybe not have heard that term, it's a pollution that comes off of the land that we cannot trace back to where it's coming from. It could be fertilizer, it could be sediment, it could be nutrients, it could be pesticides, herbicides. Any of that type of stuff would pollute the waters.
But it's not coming out of a pipe. So point source pollution is something that you can definitively say, okay, this is it. It's coming out of a pipe. There's a source to identify. And non-point source pollution is just kind of natural occurrences of how it happens.
And they've answered the conservation answer really well with regards to that. But the fact of the matter is, there's a whole other side to our state that's already being impacted with regards to the Chesapeake Bay and how our water flows in from our watersheds and out of these areas. And as more attention is paid to those streams or those waterways that are holding a nutrient load or contributing to what they consider their pollution levels being, you're getting more and more decisions made outside of your localities and your locations with regards to how your water should be cleaned up and what your land should be done, how it should be taken care of. So there's always that conservation answer was wonderful. There's always that political side that one day, just like us in Floyd County, every bit of our water originates right here and flows out. There'll be a day, we might not see in our lifetime, but our kids will, where our neighboring counties will be saying, that water is flowing out of Floyd County into the Little River, into New, whatever it may be. We want it clean by the time it reaches us. Let's put our suggested improvements in on Floyd County side.
See, it boils down, like John says, Chesapeake Bay. You got the watermen there that use that for their business and their livelihood. They've done it just like our farmers have done it in the state of Virginia, from generation to generation. And then when the oysters start dying, the blue crabs start dying, and we have dead zones in the bay, they can't make a living. And we all I love to eat seafood. But it's going to be the Gulf of Mexico next, and and that's not trying to scare anybody or anything like that. But that's going back to what John's talking about, to being the political arena.
The driving force behind a lot of the funding and stuff too. All right, next we're gonna walk right down here. We're gonna take a look at a shade structure that Daniel fabricated to use here on the farm to utilize the grazing. And then it'll be time for us to head on over to the tents and we'll get ready to have a meal. So we'll make our way on down here.
I need one of these for myself. Wouldn't it be nice to have that? Wherever you go, you could just work in the shade.
Yeah.
It's pretty ingenuitive, isn't it? Daniel, do you want to tell them basically what you did here? What kind of contraption you got going on here?
I guess it's like what Chris was saying, or Chanz earlier, about the manure under the shade trees. I started noticing how lush and good the grass grew underneath shade trees where the cattle hung out. So I guess I wanted a shade tree that I could move around and put the manure where I wanted it. And it's crazy the impact that this thing gets and how the grass comes back so much better after. And we put fly tape on the top of it. I don't know if I might have some in here. Yeah, they make this stuff. We just use masking tape and tape it to the top of it. And me and Bentley have counted like, what was it, like thousands of flies. Yeah. So you can catch a lot of flies in a day like that.
So you know, this is just another example of Daniel thinking outside the box, trying to do something different on his farm here to help, you know, move that manure around, to transport it different areas to utilize it, you know, to help grow back his forage. So it's, you know, it's very clever. So.
Do you have any estimates how much it cost, counting your time to build this?
Not my time. I think I remember it cost me $1,100, but I had a welding business, so I had some scrap stuff that I used. I did have to buy quite a bit of it too, though. If you had to pay somebody to build one, I don't know. They make something. A company makes a portable unit. It's called, but they're pretty expensive. Like this truck, I bought this truck off my buddy for $500. It has a blown head gasket, but I don't never drive it far enough to get it hot, so it works perfect for that. So I think I have like, you know, $1,500 or $1,600 in this, but that's not counting my time.
All right, does anybody else have any other questions? All right, well, I guess we'll mosey on down here to the tents and get ready to have a meal, and then we can do some powwow and everybody can talk and socialize.
Well, this is bigger than I realized.
Oh, it throws some shade out. 50 head can fit under here, you know, all at the same time. Yeah. So I wonder how many you could use this for. Because, you know, you could use it for more than 50 because they could take turns, I think. Yeah. But I don't know I wonder what the limit would be.
Here's our bulls hanging out over here during the pasture walk. Just chilling. We've got Gil Yearwood here with us. How you doing today, Gil?
Thank you, Daniel. Very well. It's beautiful out here.
Thanks for coming, Gil.
I see they're not starving the bulls they got from me. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for coming, bud.
Thank you.
See you later, guys.